I feel in the face of all the problems in the world impotent, and why I somehow cannot manage to transform I. Now here we get to the real problem, because we're always telling each other that we should be different. Now I'm not going to tell you that tonight. Why not? Because I know you can't. Nor can I. That may sound depressing, but I'll tell you it isn't. It's very hard. But everybody, you see, who is at all sensitive and awake to their own problems and human problems is trying to change himself. We know we can't change the world unless we change ourselves. So when we are aware of the ego I, we are aware of this chronic tension inside ourselves. And that's not us. It's a futile tension. So when we get the illusion, the image of ourselves, married to a futile tension, you've got an illusion married to a futility. And then you wonder why I can't do anything.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. Let's go over the irrelevant pivots for whatever the hell this is. Really, it's pretty much just the same of everything. I am not overwhelmingly impressed with this chart, well, because it's been the same chart for like 5 days. All right, we still have the same pivots, except maybe the volatility overhead's a bit longer than it used to be, so 120 now. And really, it's not going to mean much. So let's just set up our correct values here. Right, if I recall correctly, let's go to the 1 hour. So I can get those pivots nice and defined. Right, we got 110 or 1050 as our longest, and our volatility overhead down here. It's actually going to be a different value than on the 4 hour chart, so let's load this up. 500. Let's see how that behaves. Yeah, not really relevant. Not yet. It's a compressing range. I mean, if we want to define the volatility overhead of the compressing range, it's fine. I also have a problem with volatility overhead. It's minimal, but it is a problem. Using WavePM for compressions is not as useful as I want it to be because of an inherent flaw in the way WavePM is coded. It's because WavePM readings actually compress preemptively, and because they compress preemptively, that means on different time frames, you're going to get one time frame compressing faster than another time frame, and they're not going to be objective on each one. Whereas over expansion, that's much more consistent because the mass readings do in fact correlate between each time frame rather accurately. So I guess I'm going to show you what I mean by that, just for funsies, right? Let's see here. We need to find a previous example where we broke out of a volatility overhead, okay? Because since this would pretty much just be me talking about the same chart for the third time, fourth time, fifth time, let's teach you guys something new, okay? Trying to find a good example, and I know I'm cherry picking here, but for the sake of sanity and clarity, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I could actually use a static period to best represent this. Okay, let's look at this example right here. Okay, so here our longest overexpanded period is 70, right? If we mouse over to the location where it turns green, let's make a vertical line right there. Okay, bada bing, bada boom, right there. Right. So that line is where volatility overhead evaporated. Right, so if we look at, say, the 1 hour chart in the exact same area, so we'll take a bit of scrolling. Come on, boy, let me go. Back in 2018. I'm just looking for my blue line. Come on, Boyle. Send him my way. Oh, there it is. There's the blue line. Nice. All right, so that location is where the volatility overhead evaporated on the 4 hour chart. But if we were to look at that same reading on the 1 hour chart, right? Here, our longest overexpanded period is 360. And if we actually mouse over to where it actually evaporates here. Okay. You see the problem? There's almost 2 days in there. So that variance for implying where trend could even begin, well, that's a problem. Right? Because we're actually getting different readings based on the time frame you're on, and that's not good. Right? That's actually one of the reasons I don't use compression in May. Because different time frames compress at different rates, and if you have different time frames compressing at different rates, then it's not going to be objective. And if there was a way to change WavePM that allowed the compression to be more uniform across all time frames, I would be much more inclined to use it. But if we're being honest, the variance isn't all that great, and still having the general volatility overhead, right, because they're softer pivots rather than the longest overexpanded period, it's still very useful, right? So let's actually load up 2 Bollinger Bands just to point this out, right? So this location we have the 300 band on the 1 hour chart, okay? And then let's find out. Okay, well, I'm going to have to define volatility overhead, going at the same location. And so we're going to arbitrarily choose a location. We're going to do here, this candle right there. Okay, so at this location on the 1 hour chart, let's actually do 4 hour first. Well, no. Here our volatility overhead is set to 160, right? So, point out that volatility overhead at this location is 160. And we do compress as defined by the 160 at that location rather nicely. You'll notice that this pivot right here is very well respected. Right? So, we actually go to the 4-hour chart and look at the exact same area. Right, we're going to need to do the following. 160 divided by 4. That should be... oh god. 40. 40 on this time frame. As defined by our 1-hour reading. Right? Because that's going to be the same band as we saw on the 1-hour chart. So what if we were to look at that same candle and define the volatility overhead on the 4-hour chart? It's actually 45 over here. In fact, we're actually not getting a volatility overhead reading on the 4-hour chart. Because of the previous expansion, or rather the new expansion that caused this here. So that's goofy. Right. Objective readings. Anyway, as far as actual Bitcoin predictions go, I think volatility popped to the upside. Around 5,700. It's a good target before full rejection. Something like that's going to happen. Right? It happens a lot where we actually get like these flagpoles and then an upward break and then the opposite. So we have like trend, flag, oh ho, it's an uptrend, see? And then it just dumps. And then it flags and like, oh, see, it's a downtrend, and then it pumps. Right? So I want to assume that fractal, especially because we're still expecting the retest of our weekly pivots, weekly 50 moving average. So if we were to see the volatility pop to the upside, oh, uptrend, moon Lambo, peak FOMO, and then bap, then the rejection. That would make the most sense to me. Oh, BCPT's up today. That's good. I'm still back holding. Might want to sell it here though. I'm going to be honest. Been holding it since here, just about. Just checking the daily. Actually, sooner than that. I bought it here. Yeah, all the way over here in this nice little compressed area is where I bought it. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. I think that's all I have to say. Let's see. Cat with charts. Cool. I'm gonna stop this trading view idea. I'm done. See you, folks. I'm gonna go through my YouTube comments now. Strongly disagree that compression isn't useful. You're absolutely right. It's definitely useful. My point is there's just a slight discrepancy on the time frames. But being able to define extremities in a more objective manner than choosing an arbitrary period, that's very useful. I will agree with that. And let's be honest, volatility overhead, when it's compressing, like, it will look like this on the relative 4-hour, and it'll look like, or like that on the relative 1 hour, and look like this on the relative 4-hour. There's not that much difference between the pivots. The margin of error is very small. So it's totally still useful. All right, I just wanted to address that there is a discrepancy. And it's totally a different use case. Yeah, for range trading, it's one of the best I've seen. It is more objective, yes. You're asking me to mess with the look back factor? Ooh, okay. Dude. I haven't played with that variable. Ah! No, you're totally right. Yeah, I guess if you change the periods for oscillator look back, that fixes the problem. No, Cat's right. Okay. It's been a long day. No, but that's interesting, Cat. Should probably learn how to code. And we're gonna change the input style, because one of my favorites is the ZLMA and standard unweighted STDIF. Because this is one of the ones where you get like the soonest readings of expansion and compression, in my opinion. Right, well, obviously because it's a less lagging than a simple moving average. So it's pretty good. Okay. Ask me about altcoins. Oh, I have some over here. MFT. Oh god, that's a problem with them, isn't it? Oh no, it's not. I was thinking of MTL. I mean, if you want to assume static support, go ahead and try. I just don't trade that way, right? If you want to assume it's going to bounce because it bounced here, 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 and here, yeah, you can assume it's going to bounce again. It just doesn't match my risk management profile. That's good enough. What was the other one? FET. You know, I would like to try changing the oscillator look back on 3D Wave PM, but I'm afraid to open the settings right now. Not on the live stream. Hard to define if there's actually a trend beginning here. If you have a swing high and a downtrend, you bet continuation of downtrend. I don't want to bet against that, you know? If I could short this, I would probably try to short it. I'll say that much. Sure, it might be like a rounding bottom, but you should probably let support define itself a little bit better before trying anything. I don't think it's going to go any higher from here. Let's try out Nano. Yeah, still waiting for some entry on that. I got an alert set. I had a CCI alert go off here. Probably should have called it as soon as it hit. But yeah, it's 7%. I want to see a little bit further retrace, and then I'll try an entry. Nano's a good chart. And we'll do E&J as well. To my understanding, this bounced directly on top of the mean reversion pivot, right? Is there a chart with better look back? thank God. Right, 250. Watch this. Yeah, it bounced right on that pivot. If we touch down on that pivot again, I'm going to try a long. Probably set an alert for that. Hold on. We'll see what happens. We'll check out INS. Like, trend is still technically defined on ENJ, so we'll see what happens. This is super compressed, except there's implied downward expansion at the moment on the daily. All CCI periods are weighted to the downside. You have a new mass generation. I don't want to play with it just yet. We can check mean reversion pivots though. Hold on. On the 180. Okay. Oh, wow. You could theoretically take a long here, but it's going to be more of a scalp position. Okay, you want to wait for that retrace. And you might have to assume local lows, so you're going to have a really bad profit ratio. Okay. Let's do, ooh, that's a rare one. Turkish lira. You have an uptrend. If you want to bet that the uptrend continues, you can. I would try to do quad CCI on this kind of chart. Okay. Wait for the swing low, catch an entry. As far as the daily goes, yeah, you actually have implied continuous trend. 14 periods overexpanded, but you do have net expansion in the same direction. You know, this is a pretty cozy chart if you want to try trading it. It is very comfy. One thing to note, we're pretty close to 3.2. Anticipating at least short-term lateral trading for trend continuation would be safe. Wow, I wish I knew about that earlier, because that was a pretty clean signal. Are we in a compressing range? Not that I can really see. Volatility overhead's already evaporated for this plume. Oh, and trend, like this expansion is still defined and we're still in the trend, so. I don't know, I think playing this on the short term for the uptrend is a good idea, but you also need to expect the retrace and then look for entry in a longer term trend here. Okay. Let's try the 6 hour. Yeah. The 110 period, eh? I mean, we're respecting that pivot really well. If we re-enter, sure, we can short. But yeah, you can short if that signal's hit. On the daily, say the longest over expanded period's 425. For this bad boy, 425? Yeah, okay. It is. It's, I actually disagree, Kat. Yes, being contained by the longest overexpanded period is, well, shoot. I have mixed feelings on this one, because I've been burned by charts like this in the past. For pretty good reasons, right? Mean reversion is not implied when you re-enter the longest overexpanded period's 1.25 standard deviation, right? What's actually implied is lateral trading as defined by its 1.25 standard deviation. What this does not mean is that it's going to go to the mean. It means that it will trade laterally as defined by the band. And this counts as lateral trading as defined by the band. As long as it doesn't leave, it's still meeting the rules. However, once it evaporates, once you return below a 0.7 value for the longest overexpanded period, you no longer expect price to be contained so here's I'm going to show a comparison of something that happened to me. I think it's this one right here. Yep. So let's wait for 3D Wave PM to load. Okay. So this is a great example where we have the 60 period on this chart. Okay. Okay, never mind, that mean reversion completed. Which one was it? It's burned on one of these. I just don't remember which one. Does my memory deceive me? Huh. $275. Okay. Yeah, I just needed the higher resolution. Cool. So we re-enter the band, we trade laterally as defined by the band, and then as soon as this period right here goes below the 0.7 value and turns green, price rockets out of the band within the day without completing the mean reversion, right? So the same thing I'm kind of seeing on USD TRY. There's one other thing I want to point out. Okay. Yeah, you do have some pretty good confluence there. I'm just hesitant when your volatility overhead does evaporate like that. So, yeah, if you get confirmation on the 1 hour chart, right, what was it, 425, if I recall correctly? No, it's the 350. Actually, 4 hour. Okay. So 105? 110? Yeah, if you get some more bearish confirmation on this one, might work out. Also, it's trying to use this piece of mass is really funky. It's 110 on the 6 hour because of the way this tags both edges, and it's also 110 on the 4 hour because it tags both edges. Like, I don't really consider this generation of mass right here tradable. Okay, I'm going to do one more chart. We're going to look at MFT. We already did MFT, didn't we? Yeah, okay. We're going to look at data. Okay, looks like we're just defining local support again. You are welcome to try and define local support. All right, there's your horizontal line. If you want to try trading that, go ahead. All right. It feels so arbitrary to me. Your pivots aren't really well defined anywhere. I don't know, I just consider this kind of chart noise. There is a lot of noise in this chart. Yeah, Kat, the point I'm making is it's hard to define longest overexpanded periods on the shorter time frames on that chart because of the bidirectional movement of that previous move. But when you reduce the resolution and just look at the previous huge generation of mass that's a clean defined trend, then yes, you can get clear readings. So the macro is doable, but I was trying to look for confirmation on the lower time frames and I just couldn't find it because of how choppy the chart was. I was looking at this yesterday on like the 5-minute chart. It's funny, I wanted to buy right there. Kind of made what, 10%? Yeah. It happens. I was busy doing chores. Alright folks, this has been a good stream. Alright, we'll talk to you all later. You have a beautiful day.